and I actually mean it this time, that this is going to be my last EDC. Hello, welcome back to Postpod episode 7. I am Kate, and this podcast is literally just about your 20s, my reflection on my 20s, and going through the post-grad life. So if that's kind of what you're going through, or you're just interested in listening to me yap, then this podcast is for you. I recently had an awakening at EDC Orlando, and I'll go into it more in the podcast, but I've had multiple awakenings this year. But this moment in EDC was when I was like, okay, I think I am maturing. Long story short, it was Sunday at EDC. And if you're not familiar with EDC, it is a EDM music festival. The one I attended was in Orlando, which was earlier this month. And it's a 3-day festival, and it was the last day, which is usually a Sunday. It was my day 2 because I skipped day 1. And I just didn't want to be there. And if you know me, raving is literally my personality. Ooh, after saying that, ew. Just hearing that, I'm like, ooh, raving is my personality. Anyways, raving has become my personality, and I just did not want to be there. Even my outfit that I had that day said I really was not planning on being there. But I was just tired. I was tired physically, mentally, emotionally. I was just tired. And we got in maybe around 6 o'clock at EDC. The festival starts at 2 p.m., but it goes till midnight. So it's very common to come in at a later time. And I remember just not even really feeling in the music, not really vibing. I don't want to say what DJ it was because maybe I was just in a down mood, but there was a DJ playing that I was really excited to see. And I remember turning to my friend and being like, this is kind of bad. I'm not really having fun. And then we left. And then we went and got food. And then we went to another stage. And I was literally just there standing. My friends are jamming. I'm just there standing. And then I was like, I think I'm going to go sit down. And then that was at 7 o'clock. I sat at a picnic table until 10 p.m. And then I left at 10 p.m. Mind you, this is my first time leaving EDC early. And it's not common to leave EDC early because typically what happens at festivals is the most popular or one of the bigger DJs will play at the end. And that's why people will stay till the end. But specifically that day, I had to drive back to Jacksonville because I was supposed to work the next day. Spoiler alert, I did not work because I was just exhausted. But leaving early, I felt good. It felt weird leaving early because it was my first time leaving early, but it felt good leaving at 10 o'clock. And then also, I just wanted to show this clip I took. It is actually really, really pretty outside of Tinkerfield, which is the venue for EDC. It looks really pretty from the outside, hearing the music, the bass, seeing the lights. If people drive by it on the highway, they're probably like, wow, they're having a blast in there. And I'm not trying to tell people that this is going to be your experience. If you attend EDC day 3, you're going to be like me and just want to sit down and not vibe. No, everyone should try it out if you're comfortable going to these kinds of settings. But that was just my experience. To give a little background, I started going to EDC 2022 when I was 21. I am now 24. That was my 4th EDC, and I recently have told so many people, and I actually mean it this time, that this is going to be my last EDC. And every time someone says that, they're like, yeah, sure. You're just saying that. You say that every year. But this is the first time I said it, and I'm like, yeah, that's my last EDC. And after saying that, I remember telling it to someone over the phone and being like, I think I'm gonna retire my raving personality. They're like, what? That's your thing. And it's not that I don't like that is part of my personality. I think I'm over that scene. So that leads me to the title of this episode. Postpod episode 7 is this called maturing? So like I said, I turned 24 this year, which some people consider their mid-20s. I would like to consider it my early 20s still. But a lot of people talk about having these transitions in their 20s, you know. There's a lot of moving parts when you're going through your 20s. You graduated, people are going through major life events, things like that. Everyone is moving at a different pace. And then you start to kind of like figure out who you want to be, what you want to do, things like that. And that's what your 20s is about. But I think specifically that experience I had at EDC and saying that this is my last EDC made me realize that I'm doing more than just retiring my rave personality, and maybe I'm actually maturing. Let's look up what the definition of maturing is. What does it mean when someone is maturing? To become more developed mentally and emotionally and behave in a responsible way. I'm not trying to say if you go to raves or anything like that, it's not considered not immature, or it's not considered immature, but wait, I shouldn't say the word but, sorry. I just feel like when you retire your party scene, I don't even know if I would consider it a party scene. If you retire that kind of activities or hobbies from your life, people would see it as maturing. This episode is basically going to be about me maturing and other moments recently or sometime this year where I kind of had that awakening of, oh, like, is this something I actually enjoy? Things like that. My main goal of this episode is for you and me to realize how you spend your time, who you spend your time with, and just to be a little bit more intentional with it. I think that is something that I've learned to do this year, especially as someone who has recently turned from an extrovert to an introvert. I really value my time. And I'll get more into it in this episode with how I make that balance between my alone time, social life, things like that. I actually wanted to call this episode Extrovert Turned Introvert, but I feel like I could cover a little bit of that in this episode. Is this called Maturing? So we're going to talk about the other times I've had an awakening this year, as well as how I've kind of been handling this maturing era transition I'm going through. And yeah, is anyone else going through an awakening right now, or is it just me? Because I need, like, we need some bonding right now. Is there anything wrong with maturing? I don't think so. I don't want to say there's anything wrong with it. It's just really bittersweet to grow out of your personalities and activities you enjoy doing. And I don't want to say I'm not enjoying raving anymore. It's just I think I'd rather spend my time doing other things. Just saying that, I'm like, what the heck? Who is this woman? Not this girl. Who is this woman? Oh my gosh, guys, look what I'm freaking drinking too. I'm drinking coconut water because it's better for me. Adulting is one thing, but becoming an adult is another thing. And I think becoming an adult, I think adulting is worse. But becoming an adult is quite an awakening. Let me tell you that. I want to hear what y'all's awakening moments are, or if you've had an awakening moment, or if you want an awakening moment. I don't know. I didn't think at the age of 24 I'd be like, this is my last EDC, guys. Sorry, not gonna see you next year. No. Anyways, okay. Let's talk about other times I've had an awakening. Is awakening a little too dramatic of a word to use in this scenario? I don't know. If you cannot tell, I like using dramatic words. I feel like it adds to the emotional side of this podcast. It makes it a little bit more like, ooh, dramatic. But I'll use the word in this part of the video. I'll use the word moments I realized I was growing up. I don't like using that. I like the word maturing. Moments I realized I was maturing. Moments I realized I was growing up. That sounds a little bit more boring. Sorry, but okay. Moments I realized I was maturing. This is just me listing it off. Sometimes I go to work at 6:30 a.m. Sometimes. It's only happened a handful of times. And the main reason I would go into work at 6:30 a.m. is so that I can leave earlier. But also sometimes it's because I have just work that needs to get done. Like work that I'd rather get on earlier in the workday rather than later in the workday. The first time I got into work at 6:30 a.m., I was like, wow, this is amazing. I do not, let me set a disclaimer. I do not like, actually, now that I'm thinking about what I'm about to say, I take it back. I was about to say I do not like waking up early, but actually I enjoy waking up early. And there you go, that's the episode. I am an adult. I have been going to bed early. I'm usually in bed before 10 o'clock p.m. And according to my Garmin, I am asleep by like 10:30. So naturally, because I go to sleep a little earlier, I am able to wake up at like 5 a.m. to make it to work at 6:30 a.m. So I don't know if any of you guys are 5 a.m.ers. Is that what you guys would call yourself? Early birders? Yeah, early birders. Early birds. If you guys are early birds. But I feel like waking up early just to do more in your day is really maturing. Even this morning, I woke up at 5 a.m. Because I actually wanted to watch the sunrise, but it was cloudy, so then I went back to sleep. But then, naturally, I woke up at 8 a.m. and I got started with my day. And for some people, 8 a.m. is early, especially on an off day or a holiday. Like, waking up at 8 a.m. is, like, why would you do that? You already wake up early for work. But me, I think, especially since I like to pack a lot into my days, waking up early has really helped me with spacing out my productive hours. So me, I am the type to work, and then take like a 1 hour, 2 hour break, and then work. Some people, they like to be productive and then take a break, be productive, then take a break. Honestly, everyone's different with how they get through their day, but me personally, I chunk it up and then I take a big break, chunk it up. That's a weird phrase, chunk it up. Sorry. Let me rephrase. I'll do a lot and then I'll take a break. I'll do a lot, then take a break. And definitely waking up early and going to sleep early has helped in making sure that I have those successful days. Another awakening I had was I deleted Instagram and I'm okay. Like, I'm totally okay. I was super big into Instagram. I loved posting. I loved just sharing my life. And I deleted it back in April because I was studying for a big exam. And then I just haven't had it since. And I go on it every now and then. I would say probably like once a week, but it's more just to make sure no one is DMing me on like one of my accounts, and also just to check up some businesses or shops, like some local businesses or restaurants, they put out their information on their Instagram. So I do have Instagram, not my main account. My main account is deactivated, but I have one of my accounts on my iPad. So if I do need access to Instagram, I'll look at it there, or I'll just look at it through Safari. But other than that, I was able to travel to many places without it. And I feel like ever since I deleted Instagram, I take photos and videos without in the back of my head being like, oh, this has to be aesthetic because I'm going to post it. Like, no, it's more like I'm taking these videos, these photos, just because I want to capture this memory. Like, it's just for me. Like, I remember once I deleted Instagram, my sister, and usually naturally whenever you're taking photos, like someone's taking photos of you, they're just going to keep clicking that button, you know, because you want to make sure you get a good photo, don't want to waste time. But I just remember starting to tell my sisters, like, just take one photo. Like, I'm only really taking this photo for a memory. And I don't know, it's like really, really changed the way I am on my phone. Like, there was one party I went to, it was my friend's birthday party. I left my phone there and I didn't realize I left my phone because I just am not on my phone really whenever I'm in those social settings. So yeah, deleting Instagram. I definitely recommend it. At least take a break or really limit your time on social media. I am still actively on TikTok. I'm slowly probably going to delete it going into the new year, but it has definitely like changed my perspective on when and how I capture like photos, videos, things like that. So I talked about my EDC awakening, my 6:30 a.m. workdays awakening, deleting Instagram awakening. One last major awakening I would have to say is when I was traveling this past summer. I was in New York with my family, and then I went to New York again later that month with a friend. And then 2 days after that second New York trip, I was in Chicago. And let me tell you, 3 times in less than a month in the city made me realize I actually may not like the city life. I am grateful and thankful that I was able to travel to Chicago and New York multiple times this year. But it's to a point where I don't know if I could deal with that very hustle and bustle lifestyle. I think it was more just with the way I was taking on those trips. The first 2 trips to New York, the first time it was honestly just eating and shopping with my family. It was I think my family's first time as like adults, I want to say, not like as kids. They were in New York, and so we were able to enjoy it a little bit more. But it wasn't really we were doing anything touristy other than the Summit 1 experience. And then the second time I was in New York was with a friend. We watched the Blackpink concert, and again, just shopping and eating. And then Chicago was Lollapalooza, and honestly just Lollapalooza, shopping and eating, nothing too touristy. And then I was in Chicago again last month, October, for the Chicago 5K, and it was again just shopping and eating. And I don't want it to sound like I had a boring time, but it was more I wasn't appreciating my trip as much as I wish I was, or as much as I wish I could appreciate it, because I was just traveling there too many times to where it kind of lost its spark. I don't know if that sounds a little dramatic, but it's kind of like when, for example, Orlando is one of those cities that a lot of people travel to probably frequently in Florida, and it gets to the point where like you realize, oh, I don't have to jam pack what we're doing in Orlando because I'll most likely be in Orlando again in a couple of weeks. Kind of the same concept. Not saying that I'm planning on going to Chicago, New York again. It's just it got to a point where I feel like I overexplored. And I don't know if this is an awakening moment for me, but I do want to say it made me realize that I need to be a little bit more, how can I put this? Like, going to those places is comfortable because I've been there multiple times. I'm very familiar with where things are, how the public transportation works, but it made me realize I do need to explore new places. I do need to sometimes be okay with having to be uncomfortable with not knowing how things work and having to research those things. So that is probably one of my goals next year, is to, I don't want to say stay away from the cities, but just focus on exploring places that are new to me. I am hoping to do a solo trip next year. A lot of my friends have gone on their solo international trips, and it's been very inspiring. One of my coworkers recently did this major hiking trip, and I was just like, wow. And she did it alone, and I was like, I really need to take advantage of my time alone and being able to go on these trips and have these experiences. So I think, I don't want to say it was an awakening, but I guess just a realization, which is still, I think, maturing in a way. Those were the moments that I could think of, at least from this year, where I had an awakening or I realized I needed change or things like that. And other than that, it's really made me want to focus on making that change, especially with the end of the year coming. I am looking forward to next year and just maturing. Wait, I take that back. I don't want to say I'm looking forward to maturing, but I guess just letting it happen, with all these moments, these experiences, these awakenings, as I like to dramatically call it, this year, I have slowly picked up some things to make sure this transition is not really, I don't want to say slowing me down, but really bringing me down, I guess. Like I said, it is bittersweet that I'm having these realizations, but I think it's an exciting start to the maturing, adulting, growing up world. And I've learned to prioritize some things in this maturing era, but I've, again, slowly picked up some things, and I want to share what I've been doing to really support this maturing era. Wow, I said maturing so many times in that sentence. Sorry. So one of the biggest things that I've really enjoyed that I started, I think, March of this year, is my it's a tongue twister, is my social/solo log. This is a log where I write down the days where I had a social activity or a solo activity. I briefly write down in like 3 bullet points what happened. I rate the experience, and this is honestly just a personal tracker for me to realize and make sure I have my solo time in the week and also my social time in the week. I recently have realized that I have a very, very low social battery compared to when I was in college. And I am, like I said, an extrovert turned introvert. And I really, really, really love my alone time. And I'll get more into that about how I like to spend my alone time, make sure I'm taking care of myself, things like that, self-care. But this log has really helped me make sure that I'm not putting too much time into solo activities versus social activities. So what I'll do, let's say I went out to eat friends. Oh my gosh. Let's say, for example, I went out to a restaurant with some friends to catch up. I'll go into my social/solo log. I'll write down the date, the activity, how many hours it was, and then I'll say whether it was a low or high, medium social activity or a solo activity. I'll write down in like 3 bullet points what happened, things we talked about, how I felt, and then I'll rate it. And the reason I rate it is because sometimes I realize whenever I do activities, I feel like sometimes I'm forcing myself and I'm not enjoying the activity as much as to compare it if I naturally wanted to do it. So sometimes giving that rating, it makes me realize, okay, I think I forced myself to go out and do this activity when I have a low social battery. So I wasn't really able to appreciate that time I spent with that person because I had a low social battery. And honestly, having that log has saved me a lot from having those instances where I force myself to go out, have some conversations with friends, and then I realize, oh my gosh, like I'm not really paying attention. I'm not engaging in the conversation because of that low social battery. So I randomly got that idea to start logging those activities, but it has helped me a lot. I recommend it if you're someone like me with a low social battery, or if you're struggling to balance between social and solo time. It only takes me like maybe 5 minutes max to log each activity. But another thing that I've done to make sure I get these activities logged in my journal is having solo dinner once a week. And I never until recently ate out by myself. And it's not really because I don't like doing things alone. It's more like I don't want to, like, I wanted to do something while I was eating. Most of the time people will be on their phone or, I don't know, doing something. And I wanted to do something other than being on my phone. I'm not that big of a reader. I did try getting back into reading this year. I'm more of an audiobook / podcast person. But recently, because I have that social / solo journal, I was like, okay, every Monday or Tuesday, I'll go out to eat. And my rule is it has to be a restaurant I've never been to, and it has to be a small local business restaurant. After work, I'll go to that restaurant. I'll log all my solo / social activities from the previous week. And that's like about an hour of alone time where I, number one, get to enjoy a delicious meal. I get to treat myself to a delicious meal. And number two, I get to journal. And it's really nice and relaxing. I find peace in people watching, but sometimes I feel like I'm a little bit of a creep, especially if I'm eating alone in a restaurant. So I feel like having that journal is like a activity that I feel safe doing and just makes me being alone or doing that act of eating out alone feel a little less lonely. Another big thing that I've been doing is really recognizing and respecting my boundaries when it comes to that social battery. I was the type of person where any activity, whether it was a local event or someone invited me to something or anything, I would say yes, no matter what. If my schedule was busy, you know what, I would make time for it. But I recently got to a point where I want to make sure whenever I'm engaging with these people or I'm doing these activities, I do it with intention and I want to appreciate the experience. I'm sorry if I sound really like, I don't want to use the word holistic, but if I sound a little bit more like I'm preaching, like I, do things with intention, be a little bit more appreciative. But it's just, I think, something that I've learned to really focus on when it comes to my time and my actions is doing things, again, intention and being appreciative of it. There was a time, I don't remember what or when it was, but I was doing something and I remember, okay, this is another awakening story. It was the Tate McRae concert. I will use past tense, I was a big concert goer until that Tate McRae concert. I I just wasn't excited. I wasn't as excited to, see this artist. And I'm not saying Tate McRae, who I was seeing that day, is a bad artist. It's just, I just go to concerts a lot to the point where it's unfortunately become like, oh, I already know, like, this is how it goes, blah, blah, blah. I think I just realized that I need to stop doing things a little bit more often, so that when the time comes, I'll appreciate it a little bit more. So that's what I mean by being more intentional and appreciating your time and actions, is just make sure just make sure what you're choosing to spend your time with is actually what you want to spend your time doing. Especially as you get older, you realize time is very valuable. And I'm not saying that to be like, oh, you're getting older, you don't know, not trying to get deep or anything, but it's just you're really busy. You have a lot you want to do and a lot you need to do. So just, again, really take time to think, oh, do I really want to do this right now, or should I save it for a time when I actually do want to do it and I have more energy to do it? And I call this maturing because when you're in high school, college, you're like new to everything. You're new to going out, you're new to making friends, you're new to a lot of things. And now when you're post-college or you're a little bit more older, you've already had those experiences. You know how those things go. You know how you'll react. You know if you enjoy it or not. And again, that's why it's called maturing, because you know what it's like. It's not really a new experience. After saying that, it made me realize, I think that's why when you get older, things start to not get as exciting, because you've experienced it already, or you know how you'll react to it. You'll know whether you'll enjoy it or not. I feel like I'm getting a little bit repetitive, saying, be appreciative, be intentional, things like that. But that is the main, hopefully what I'm getting across in this video is, again, be intentional. Be a little bit more appreciative in making sure the experiences you're doing are what you want to do. One thing I realized with these activities that slowly became my personality, raving, concert going, festivals, is they give you, I don't know if this is the right word, they give you that instant dopamine naturally. For me, naturally. It's like when I would attend these concerts, festivals, raves, it's like no matter what was going on in my life, I knew if attending those activities, I would instantly, I'd have a good time, I'm surrounded by good people, things like that. Like, it's like, whatever, like, I'm happy. I'm in a very nice place. I'm having a good time, things like that. It's like, I'm happy. But I think now that I'm getting older, I'm realizing I think I need to find those instant happy moments in kind of more everyday activities. So what I've been trying to figure out is, what are those activities where it's not something where I have to pay money or travel to get those instant happiness feeling. Recently, Friday nights, I started staying in. I don't want to say I started staying in because I never really went out. I stay in and I watch a movie. I've really been into watching movies alone, and it's nice because it's, time where I really have to focus on the movie. I can't really be on my phone if I want to understand what's going on in the movie, but it's just, I watch the movie and then I do my skincare routine, my nighttime routine, and then I go to sleep and I enjoy the weekend. It's like a nice transition into the weekend, compared to like last summer when I was like going to the bars every weekend. It's like instant happiness, instant fun, blah, 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 spending money. But I'm realizing I, again, want to find time and activities where I'm a little bit more appreciative of what I'm doing things with intentions. You guys understand what I'm saying. I'm hoping. I need to stop using that word. Honestly, after saying everything I just said, I do feel very, very, very like bittersweet. Again, sad that I'm retiring some of the personalities that people really connect me to, but I think am I reinventing myself? Is that the word, reinventing myself? Am I remaking myself? Like, it's not a bad thing. It's just me changing and growing up. Oh, it makes me really sad thinking about it. Oh my gosh, it does. It makes me sad. Okay, I might start crying. But if you made it to the end of this episode, I really appreciate you, especially since I'm not the best at talking. If you couldn't tell, I like to repeat words and say the same thing, but in like 5 different versions, 5 different fonts, if you will. But I think this will be the last episode of Postpod for this year. I am hoping, and I say this like every year or every so often, hoping to get a little bit more into video editing and posting more on YouTube, especially since I'm not on Instagram and I'm slowly going to transition off of TikTok. But I hope you guys enjoy this episode. If you have had an awakening recently, or you think you're going through an awakening like me, please comment or let me know. Like, it brings me comfort knowing that other people are going through this transition era. This is Postpod episode 7. Thank you for watching, and I'll see you guys in 2026.